Hey, Internet people, I'm Joe, and today I'm taking over to interview the man, the legend, one of the brains and visionaries behind Sell2Rent. Please welcome Alex.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, Alex. What's up? How are you, man? It's an honor to have you here.
What's up, Joe? Good seeing you again. I've been seeing you in a minute. You've been crazy lately.
That's just me making some monkey business. You know how I am. And hey, sharing is caring. I'm crafting my way on the internet. Man, let's start to get to know you. Let me hit you with the first question. Your last name, man, it's difficult to say it correctly the first time. How do I say it?
It's Arguelles. It's complicated, and I blame my family for that. It's Cuban, and I have no idea the background. Spain somewhere, but the point is, it's a very complicated one. So tell that to my wife, who's very white, who has to deal with Arguelles in her day-to-day life, and everybody thinks he speaks Spanish.
I can't imagine your wife dealing with the Spanish questions. But hey, let's jump into you. Let's get real. Who is Alex? What happened in your first steps?
How much time do we got, Joe?
A week if you want. Come on, hit me with that crazy story. Let's touch base with the audience. I know you have a great background.
A week. All right, cool. I'll give you a super high level. So I was born in Cuba, moved to Miami when I was a little kid, went to the great University of Florida, where I had a really good time growing up and becoming a real human. Moved to South Florida back when I was 21 in 2007. That's the year the great financial crisis exploded, except it was an awesome year to start my life. I have a sports management degree, so I have nothing to do with real estate. The first book I ever bought is actually Mortgages for Dummies, which is right back there. I started the real estate journey at 21. It was a crazy year because the great financial crisis happened, but it was a great time to learn. I was a broke college kid, didn't have a lot of money, started a company with a couple fraternity brothers or friends from college, and spent the next 20 years learning about real estate.
Did life throw any heavy rocks your way back then? You know, those unexpected challenges that really test you and make you rethink everything.
It's never straight. It's a roller coaster. It's up and down. The path is never straight. Yeah, look, my background in real estate, a little deeper, is we started as a consulting group trying to help developers get out of their projects in 2007. As long as possible, we got our behinds kicked for 3 years from 2007 to 2010. And then in 2010, we decided to pivot, switch it around. Instead of trying to do consulting, we decided to start acquiring real estate. Our niche was we started going after distressed banks that were acquiring each other, and we would try to buy the worst properties in the hood humanly possible. Starting crackheads, no copper wiring, no windows, liens and violations, code enforcement, everything possible. It was the cheapest thing we could find. And then the other problem was that we had no money. So we had to go borrow from investors 100% of the funds. So it was a great experience. It's definitely the base of everything I do today. And for 13 years, we ended up scaling that company before I got out of it in 2020 before COVID. And it was just 13 years of learning and experience sharing and learning how to do culture and scorecard and KPIs and meeting rhythms and just scaling and taking risk and doing remote offices and travel, and learned a lot.
Hey, now that you mention it, people always think real estate is luxury and money. But speak about more of the real world out there. What's the real deal out there?
So things that come to mind is you make all your money in the acquisition. If you buy something very expensive and the price moves on you, or you can't rent it and you have no cash flow, you're done. A lot of the upfront work pays dividends in the long term. That I always looked at, can we appreciate the asset? Meaning, I don't care what's there today when I buy something, I care what's there in 2 years. And I know I'm gonna get my ass kicked for the first 2 years. Everything's always fluffy and beautiful and paper and up and to the right, except the fact that once you become the real owner and you have the dead bodies hidden in the closet, you're like, oh my God, why didn't anybody tell me this? Or why didn't the profit and loss statement show that? Or how do we have all these extra expenses? So my mentality is always buy something ugly, make it pretty. So it was always buy an ugly ducking, make it a decently good looking duck at the end of it. And then, invest our money with investors' funds, rehab, make it prettier, refi a couple of years later, and keep growing a portfolio that way. Think of what's there in the future, now what's there right now.
Let's stop a little bit right there. Share with us one of the craziest deals you've lived or closed. Let's get dirty.
You're giving me heartburn and craziness just thinking about the craziest deal ever. This is a story. You're gonna have to drink some coffee for this one. I think when I was like 28, we were looking to really scale my first company, and we ended up putting under contract a big portfolio. It was 2,199 units, almost 2,200 units. units in like 13 different communities, and it was apartments in like 8 different cities throughout Florida. And that's not the crazy part. That was the hard work. So we worked on it for like 7 months, and we decided to use a special type of loan called CMBS loan, which is commercial mortgage-backed securities, which is a type of loan attached to the financial markets. And the reason we decided to do that is because we had the mentality of how do we buy this huge portfolio with as little money as possible. So the bank financed a big part of the acquisition and the rehab and everything. It was great. We went all in. It took us, like I said, 7 months of just nonstop work, appraisals, environmentals, looking through 2,000 leases, walking every unit, just a lot of work and money. The day before, here's where the drums start. The day before closing, the financial markets moved and we lost $3 million like this. The loan was $3 million less. 24 hours, we had to come up with $3 million.
How do you manage that, man?
You know, we had no idea how we were going to do it.
I mean, that's a really big number. My mind just exploded.
Like we had worked on it nonstop. We were pot committed. All the money was into deposits and doing it. And what we ended up coming up with the day before is that we convinced the bank, we were putting like $7 million into making the properties prettier and improving it. So we convinced the bank to not make us put all the money at closing to fund it out of cash flow. And what that means is that I think we did like $125K rental income every month, and we would put it into an account every single month. So instead of putting the $3 million at closing, we did every single month, we funded the account and then we used the money to rehab the property. So we got it and we made it happen. But my life lesson, my joke at the end of that was like, we did it. It was 7 months of work. We closed on it. And then once we did buy it, it's like, okay, now we own it. Now we got to start managing. And it was like, I felt like the world went from crushing me to like, I lifted it up 2 inches. Breathe a little, but it's still there now. Now starts to work. So yeah, that was a crazy experience in my late 20s. But yeah, it was a really good experience.
$3 million? That's a big number, man. That was a crazy story. And that brings me to the next question. How do you recharge from this? How do you refuel?
So my thing is working out. Like I work out, I have a home gym. I used to CrossFit a lot. My thing is I work out like about 6 times a week. And for me, for the last like 15 years, is more about the mental reload, the mental recharge, and the physical recharge. Like I love putting my phone away, blasting loud music. I'm on a drum and bass kick right now, which is the fastest EDM you can get into. But my thing is like to not process business information, stressful stuff. It's just to sweat, reload, and do something fun. That, I don't play sports. I try to play sports, but none of my friends are athletic anymore. They're all old and fat, and I get to make fun of all of them. It's hard with kids in life, and if you want to play any sport, you need 10 people or 8 people. So like, it's not easy anymore. Anything that's fitness related, anything that is outdoors, where my phone has no reception, I love. Like I'm going lobster eating tomorrow, and I'm like putting my phone away for the entire day, and it's like a fun to be out and get some sun and don't think about emails type of thing. So my recharge is definitely loud music, working out some sort of way, not looking at my emails.
Man, I love it. And one fun fact, you have lived close to the sea. Do you love to do some water sports?
I love fishing, snorkeling, anything that's underwater, I love. I don't do it enough anymore right now, but like, I think there's something awesome about being underwater and not being in control. That, just letting go, that's really cool.
Nice. Now, if you could grab a beer with anyone in all of human history, who would it be? And sorry, Justin Timberlake's off the table. Just kidding.
It's always Justin Timberlake because he's awesome. But it's funny. I always ask this question. It's never asked of me. And today I'm in a mood of complete left field, Alexander the Great. I just finished his biography and it was insane how many years ago he did what he did. And he did so much by the age of 30 that I think there's some crazy stories there. He came from Macedonia, which most people don't even know where it is. And he took over pretty much the entire planet, the known planet at that point. And it was, he did it by the time he was 30. So I think there's some cool stories there. I'll change next week. Next week, I'll think of somebody else. But today, I'm in Alexander the Great mode.
Alexander the Great. Nice one. He owned the world at 30, and I only own my crypto and my residential real estate properties. Okay, let's close this part. Give me 2 books, one that you recommend for the business side and one for mental distress. Hit me, Alex.
Okay, so I am burned out when it comes to best performing habits and how highly functioning people work. Right now, I've done all those. I'm more into like autobiographies, like Alexander the Great, or fun things. So on the business side, I really like a book by T. Boone Pickens. He has a book called The First Billion Was the Hardest, and he's dead now, but this awesome oil tycoon that lost it all comes from like a 200-person town in Oklahoma, huge into college sports. Like, it's just a really cool story from a guy who was self-made and lost everything and made it again. And as to like fun, reload, there's a book called The Subtle Art Not Giving a F-U-C-K. And if I'm ever in a downward spiral or never need to reload, that book just rips the Band-Aid and just stops telling me to be a little B-I-T-C-H. Just gets me back into positive mode really, really fast. So The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up. You finish the word.
Nice. New books to the list. And let's get to your business background. Tell us what forged the young Alex. How did you start?
So when I graduated college at 21, I started my first company. I've never worked for a big business, which is crazy. I've never worked for a Coca-Cola or Microsoft or JP Morgan Chase. It was always startup world, right? So I've always taken lots of risks since I was 21. I only know crazy entrepreneur startup world. I don't know structure, go to a job, clock in and do whatever. We got into real estate. So then I actually think real estate is very simple to box. Business, startups, technology is crazy because product market fit and idea market fit and traction and who's going to pay you and what contracts you use. Real estate is actually pretty simple. Before Sell2Rent, in my first company, it was a lot of just learning how to grow teams, learning how to deal with low-level drama from employees, how to deal with, making payroll and how many units do we need to cover everything, and just how we're going to buy more assets, how much equity do we need, how do we do financing, when do we sell, how do you do property management, asset management. There's an entire thing that led me to today, but it's a lot of positive thinking and staying in the zone and not being afraid of not knowing the answer. So naturally today, I'm just like, I took so much risk early on that today I'm just like, bring it on, like school, like, what's next? Solutions, right? Like, what are the solutions? And I always tell my employees, like, nothing I hate more than someone walking into the office. Well, not anymore because I have a home office. But before, I'd be like, I have this problem solver for me. Now he's like, no, like, give me solutions. Like, if you figure it out. Like, if this is your company, what do you do? Like, I gotta do all my jobs, then also do your job. Like, hard stop.
Love it. Forged in fire. That's how you get superpower, right? Getting in the real game. That's why you know how to keep things rolling.
And then, just having a fun work culture and having people stay positive and be driven and having each other's back, I think is always huge. Like, most people spend the majority of the day at work. Might as well have fun with it, right? Like, don't just, it's not a dictatorship. We're going to only do it this way. It doesn't really work, at least not in mine. So I try to keep it as fun as possible. And if people are doing great, I'm gonna have fun with them. I'm gonna try to keep it. We're gonna send memes and gifs, and we're gonna try to keep it as lighthearted as possible. And I hope that all the companies in Sell2Rent, that I run, scale that way.
That's how I get here. Let's keep it funny, fresh and wild. Now let's jump to Sell2Rent. The tagline is sell you home, cash out, and stay as a renter. It sounds really simple. Drive me through that simplicity.
Yeah, so the simplicity is, look, our leaseback strategy for Sell2Rent is, it's a niche, right? It's a different way to bring inventory to the world. When my partner, which I'll say the origin story, told me about Sell2Rent, I thought it was a dumb idea because I was like, why would anybody stay in their own house? Like, that's not what you do. That's not what we're trained to do. You sell your house and you move. The simplicity is like, well, what if the seller doesn't have to physically move and they stay as a renter? So it's a weird way to think of something, but it's like hiding in plain sight, which is maybe we just keep the renter be the seller and stays in place. They don't have to uproot their family. They don't have to change neighbors. They don't have to get into more traffic because they move further away from the school. Like, the simplicity is the leaseback.
Totally true, man. We do a lot of things just because it's supposed to be like that. With this in mind, tell me how Sell2Rent is changing the game.
Okay, so from the real estate angle, if you look at what from the seller perspective, right? The seller perspective up to now really didn't have a lot of options, or they had the options, but it was the set options, which is like, you sell your house, you move to another property, an apartment, a condo, things like that, or you downsize, you upsize, but you got to physically move. Our big thesis was like, what if you don't have to do that, right? So from a seller, that gives you a different option, especially if maybe you're building a house and you want to move in 2 years, not right now, or your kids are going to college and at that point you want to downsize, but you need the money today, right?
Hey, that's true, man. Sometimes you need the money to figure out a better plan. Love it. And now tell me more from the investor side.
On the investor side, it's a complete different angle. On the investor side is, why would I buy a leaseback? Right? Why would I buy a property with someone in it? And I laugh all the time because my previous company was spending so much time trying to understand how we're going to make more money and how do we raise what's called NOI, net operating income. It was like, we're going to raise rent, we're going to charge for dog fees, we're going to charge for utilities, we're going to do all these extra things. And at the end of the day, we'll break our heads open every quarterly meeting. And it was like, well, maybe we just don't let people move out.
Maybe we should let them stay to have someone in the house, right? Nice big picture view.
And the hidden fees are, when you have vacancy, you're never seeing that money again.
Money keeps the bananas coming. So yeah, that's true, people.
When you have turnover costs, usually the security deposit doesn't cover everything if it's really beat up. Like, you have vacancy, you have turnover, you have marketing fees, you have rehab costs, you got to paint, you got to clean. You have all these things that stack up. that are always hitting in the expenses, but you're only looking at the income. So we're like, when we started growing Sell2Rent, we're like, what if we engineer long-term leases inside the platform? What if we try to get the seller to cash out? And when they cash out, they prepay 2-3 years worth of rent, right? And the big aha moment when we tied all that together was when you're an investor, which we are, no one thinks of this, but the number one question that goes through your brain is, once you like a transaction or a deal, you're like, all right, how much money do I need? If you don't have the money, you cannot do the transaction. So I say that because we've stared at that problem so much when we were scaling my previous companies, like, hey, we want to get to 10,000 units. We did the math. We're like, we need hundreds of millions of dollars to get that. And it was like, all right, we're going to do it, but pain in the ass. That's going to be hard and it's difficult, right? Because the money just doesn't grow on trees and you just can't make it. So, and if you don't have the money, you can't buy the deal. You can't buy the transaction, right? So for Sell2Rent, we have the exact same mindset, which is like, hey, how do we make it as easy as possible for the investor? But also, how do we get them to bring as little money to the table? And what we do is we pre-qualify the property with a loan, and then we have the seller a lot of times prepay rent. So when you have a 75 to 80% loan and you have the seller contributing money, your equity as a buyer is a lot less. And a lot of people don't realize that because we've done a terrible job explaining that and educating the community. But I feel like now that we're really growing the platform, people are going to start paying attention that, oh my God, I don't need for a $300,000 house, I don't need 100K, I need 33, okay? Maybe I buy 3. So that's kind of like the behind the scenes, and we'll talk more about it. But
Sell2Rent, it's awesome. You take away a lot of the heavy lifting there, and most importantly, I think, as you explained, you save money and time. So let's dig a little bit more. How is this a win-win for all? Because man, as you said, with this model, maybe I'll not buy 1, I'll buy 3.
So we're making this a win-win-win platform. And what I mean by that is, like, if the seller has to win, the buyer has to win, but we got to win in the middle. If that's not aligned, this doesn't work. And we don't want to do it. Hard stuff. I don't want to spend my team wasting a bunch of bandwidth into working on transactions that is not going to go anywhere. Right? We lose money, right? It's not fun. So on the seller side, why is this good for you? Right? Why would you use us, and how does this make your life easier? You don't got to move, right? There's not a 50 open houses, right? You're able to cash out everything up front, right? You do got to take a little bit of discount. Usually 15% is what we're seeing from today's market value. But if you bought the house 7 years ago and you were up a lot of money, losing a little bit today is okay, right? And you're able to predetermine your lease. You're able to say, hey, I want to be here for 5 years. And it's not like you're scared. It's like, you're going to be locked in, and you're not scared that next year is going to change. Yeah. On the investor side, right? Why would anybody use us? Well, honestly, all our deals are off market. You're not competing on Trulia and Zillow, just scrolling against everybody else. 2, you're buying the property at a discount from today, right? So you didn't buy 7 years ago, but you could buy it today. And when you start, I said, you make all your money in the acquisition, you're starting below the market value. So you could screw it up a little bit and you're still fine. And if you think the market's going up, right, you should be okay. It's not like you're starting at 100 cents on the dollar and something breaks and now you're upside down. At the same time, we're helping you with a lot of the underwriting that we do ourselves. We engineer the long-term leases, so you don't have to worry about the tenant, which is a huge thing. And we get the prepay rent, and a lot of times we get the loan in place, and we do the transaction coordinator. So we help you. You're not on your own, and we roll with the title company. So honestly, we're trying to create an investment in a box where we try to do as much as possible. My line's always the crypto line, which is trust but verify. The investor has to do the work because we're not just going to hand them the keys, but we're going to help them along the way a lot. It's not just, I hope this works. You're closing in 30 days. Good luck. I hope you make it. No, we get paid when we close a transaction. So we want to make sure that the transaction happens. So we do everything humanly possible to connect all the dots and get everybody on the same page and make the transaction happen.
I love it. And let's go to the real world. What are investors saying to you? What is their experience, their feedback? What are the best comments that hit you from them?
Okay, I'm not trying to sound like a real human, not like an asshole. Investors love it. And what I mean by that is, like, I had a bunch of my personal friends buy a bunch of properties. They're like, hey, we haven't heard from a tenant in like 11 months. I'm like, it's awesome. What's wrong with you? Like, they prepay you 2 years worth of rent and they don't call you. I'm like, you can do a live check, make sure they're alive. But like, that is amazing. Every single time you have long-term tenants and they don't bother you and they pay rent on time, it's glorious. It's the best, because real estate is not, you got to touch it, you got to feel it, you got to work. And when you're the owner, the buck stops on you. And if anything breaks, they're going to either call a property manager or they're going to call you. And if you're trying to do it yourself, you want tenants that don't call you for the most part. You should do a yearly inspection, make sure everything's fine. But like, I want 10-year tenants, 5-year tenants. I don't want them not to call me and pay on time, and I'll love them forever. So that is something huge that we're getting lots of feedback from repeat buyers where investors are buying and then coming back to us and buying more and buying more. And they're like, yeah, I mean, love the long-term leases. Love it. Cool. Love the prepayment, right? Because usually you're like, you rent it to somebody and you're like, I hope they give me a deposit and I hope they make the first payment and something broke. Come fix it. You're the owner. I'm not the owner anymore. It's your problem. So like, yeah, we're seeing lots of positive reinforcement from investors that are like, all right, this is cool. Let's do more of this.
Yeah, man. Love to hear that because, and it's real. I love that you align all so well, that everything works from day one. So to close this section, share with me that one real story that hits you right, the one that makes you say, yeah, man, that's why we do this shit.
Look, our core customer, I know we're talking about investors, but our core customer is always the seller. That's our outlier. That's what we bring to the table. That's what comes to us at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday and says, hey, I like your idea. Does this work for me, right? So we have a lot of awesome feedback from owners that were in some sort of distressed situation. We have a lot of couples getting divorced where like the wife wants to stay in place. They love the house, but now they got to cut the husband a check because their biggest asset is the house. And they either sell it and everybody goes their own way with the child, or someone wants to stay. So we have a bunch of those it's awesome to hear. We've seen single moms in foreclosure because someone loses their job and now they're able to cash out, cover themselves for like 2 years financially and do it this way. We've had older people, like this is a really fun one. We had an older gentleman in state out west, not to be named. He had paid off his cash. He was single at that point. His ex-wife had passed away. And he owed $0 on his house, but he wanted to enjoy his last couple of years. So he did a leaseback. He cashed out all the money. He prepaid 2 years up front, and now he started doing things for his life and like started enjoying it. So like a lot of that is behind the scenes, but we're seeing more and more people come from all over the US who like this works for them. The biggest asset, which is their house, liquid, which a lot of times they can because they have bad credit or they don't have a job or something's wrong going on. But look, I want to be super blunt. We target sellers in a special situation because that's our core niche. That's what we understand, what we're experts at. As an investor, why would you buy this type of property? We try to protect them. We think as investors, right? When they go into the institutional world, they're like, well, what is your credit? We don't care about credit. And we do that from experience, not because, ChatGPT told us to. Like we are like in my previous world, when we had 9,000 units running on one, credit was worthless. You cared about income. Can you afford the rent? People in the US screw up their credit for so many things, right? It could be a traffic accident. I don't know. It could be a school loan that you don't pay it, or you went to the doctor, your kid went to the doctor and you changed credit cards and now your medical bill is not registering correctly and your credit goes to shit. Like we don't care about credit whatsoever. I care about, can you afford the rent? Can you prepay? How will we protect this? So we're protecting the investor by getting the property at a discount, by getting the prepay rent, which is huge, right? And then by having the seller cash out so they have some money on their side. So we thought through it. We've seen pros and cons on each side and we're making the platform better. But that's like the overall look on positive feedback from each side of the platform.
That's it, man. You know your people. I think that's a game changer. You create a model for the real world from the experience. You hear it, people? That a business developed for real people with real experience, not just by the book, but with real world issues. I think that's the real deal. And talking about the real world, hit me with the real businesses for investors. Talk to me about the real income and money-making recipe.
Yeah, look, on average, we're seeing about on the price point, we're seeing about a 15 to 20% discount. That's just on the acquisition. Then on the rent, we make sure that the rent is market rent, maybe a little bit above. So, if you have a 5-year tenant and they can afford it, I don't care about getting an extra $100 because I'm buying the property at a discount. Give me more cash flow, no problem. If you're in a big MSA, so you're in Orlando, Houston, Dallas, Nashville, Atlanta, whatever, we aim like about a 10.5% gross cap rate. Everybody throws their own expenses in there. If you're in a smaller market, if you're outside a small city in Illinois, in a small city in Tennessee, we aim like 11.5 to 12 gross cap rate, just because you want a longer term return, a better return for a more rural market. And let me be super clear. Like we've talked about this in-house a bunch. I think it's super smart to buy a bunch of diversified leasebacks in many different places that give you a higher return with long-term tenants. Like everybody thinks of the concentration in one place because of the asset management part of the operations part of it. But if you have a property manager that does it in different places, or you find a good local market and local operator, Like someone should really consider buying leasebacks in many different places that give you a higher return, that have 3 to 5 year tenants, that you're buying at a discount, that you're not competing against a lot of people. Look, I want to be, because we bought a lot of assets for this world, for Sell2Rent. We're not buying any properties. We're the transactional platform in the middle, and that's intentional. We want to compete against our own clients. We don't want our sellers to think we're lowballing them because we're buying the properties. We want to create competition. And the reality is, like, this industry is huge. There's over 150 million single family townhouse and condos today. And there's 5-6 million homes being built every single year or more. So like, it's a giant industry. It's just really scattered. I could go to Omaha, Nebraska right now, and there's hundreds of thousands of single family homes and condos and whatever. I could go to Tennessee, like everywhere. It's just really spread out.
Now that you put that on the table, yeah, the market out there is huge. Share with us how Sell2Rent is different from regular wholesalers.
Love this question because I hate the comparison. Hard stop, we're not wholesalers, period. Ends the conversation ends, right? 3 years ago, I didn't even know what a wholesaler was. And I've done billions of dollars in transactions, right? This wholesaler is a big part of the industry, but it's not what we're building this company as. So we're a technology platform. We charge a set fee, which is usually 6%, to make the transaction happen. We want the seller and buyers to agree. We want the seller to get as much money as possible, but we're not making a spread, and we're not making as much money as possible in the middle. We're building the technology to make the connection and to create competition. The best offer wins, right? So we are always going to be that. We're not going to try to gauge the seller for as much as we can, even though we believe it can be done. We are always going to make a set fee. We're always going to be on their side, and that's our core customer. So like, we want the seller to win, and we want to, on the investor side, bring off market deals, but we want competition to happen. And that's just normal real estate. We are not traditional wholesalers. We don't wholesale. We are building, honestly, all the energy we're putting into this is to build a technology to identify more buyers, to get to them faster, and to make the matchmaking anywhere in the US. I'll give you the life cycle. I'll try to be fast. It's really long, but I'll numbify it. So a seller comes to us at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday and says, I want to do this. We pre-qualify their property. We pre-qualify them to make sure they have equity and make sure that it's a condo, townhouse, or single family home. We've seen industrial parks. We've seen 200-acre lots in Colorado, ranches. And we're like, we can't do that. It doesn't work as a rental. It has to work as a rental. So we pre-qualify the property first, and then the seller to make sure they have equity and they can afford it. Once we do that, we do a 30-minute meeting with them and we say, hey, let's talk about it. Let's understand your why. Who are you? Why do you need us? How much cash do you need? When you got to do this by? What situation? Who's the owner? Like, walk us through the real estate, all that. Once we jump through all those hoops and we think it's good, we'll put the property on a contract. Once we do that, we'll do a final touch point. We'll do what we call our final underwriting. So we verify comps for price points and for rent. We talk to the HOA when needed. We run title pre-checks to make sure there's no liens and violations. We do a lot of work up front. So by the time we launch it on the platform, a lot of the information is vetted. We also do an inspection before we launch it on the platform to make sure physically the property is okay. All that I say literally to cover the investor's ass. So when they try to buy something, they don't get stuck. So then we launch it on the platform and we open up to the investors. We reach out to top local investors. We have a whole lot of marketing campaigns that we run through different channels and mediums. We have our local investors the investors that are on our platform that tell us, hey, here's my buy box. Send me deals when they match where we do this. Once we start that and we find the right investor, we'll run the transaction coordinator. We'll run with the title company. We'll get them going. We run with the lender. We introduce them to the buyer. We help with the inspections and everything with the seller. We connect the buyer and seller and get the lease going. And then we run through the transaction process and we help with the closing. That's a lot of work to say, is that we're trying to bring it inside a house, which no one thinks about, but we do a lot of work. It's not just, here's an address, give me an offer, I hope it works, call me in 30 days. We do a lot of work under the hood. And that's not the 100,000 foot view, and it's not the 1 foot view. That's somewhere in the middle. We do a lot more deep dives inside that.
Yeah, man. People don't realize how things are in the kitchen, right? So how do you achieve this? How is tech a game changer for you?
This will always be a technology company. Thought about this a lot, which is, do we buy our own assets? And the answer is no. So how do we make the transaction process go really fast? For the most part, transactional real estate has been doing the same thing for a long time and hasn't evolved. So we think of this as like, how do we play offense? How do we not just defense? Meaning all the time today when properties are sold, they're put in the MLS and they sit there and they hope interactions happen, and you put a sign outside the house and you're like, okay, I hope this works. We have a completely different mindset because we're digital. So we play offense and we try to attack, we try to engage, and we try to get it local investors and investors from other places that have like-kind investment investments, maybe they will try thinking like this. So we're thinking tech first. We're building the platform to benefit both sides. The amount of technology we're putting inside of this is awesome, right? And it's all to make the transaction happen faster. That's the sole goal. Our dream is to, the moment someone comes to us in the middle of the night one day, we within an hour say, hey, we're so confident that we can do this, and that we'll give you we'll give you X amount of money. I'm not going to tell you how much because we're working on it, but we'll give you X amount of money because we believe we can get this done. And that's just the thesis of get sellers and buyers connected faster. I think today with data, like, look, I say this story all the time, which is like when I started buying properties originally 15 years ago, if I needed to figure out who the owner was, it was so hard. It was you go to the property appraiser website, you click a button, you see the folio number, you're like, who owns next to us? Have they paid their taxes? Who's the lender? Go to the list pendants. Who, can I figure out the way? Then you try to call the bank, and the bank is like, who the hell are you? And like, no, I don't know that, and you're not the owner. And it was so hard. Today, there's so much data and technology that we're taking all that, just with that address, we can figure out within a radius today, who are the top investors? Where do they own? How do we contact them? And so we're starting to get more traction with using technology, and we're using AI to support our team.
I have to say this, I love you are using AI, man. The business is growing and making all funnier and easier.
Like the first AIs that we're playing with are all in-house. We have voice AI and marketing AIs and video AIs, all that. A lot of what we're thinking is, how do we support a team? How do we give them insights? How do we show them blind spots? How do we give them superpowers so they're able to do the transaction faster?
That's from the light side, ha ha ha. But now share with me any monster under the bed that scares you in this moment. Any things on the market that scare you.
Actually, I'm excited right now. For the last couple of years, I've been negative Nancy, and I've been like, things are overpriced, whatever. I think it's a great time to start acquiring. Like, I think people are running away from the fire, and this is a great time to run towards the fire. Like for the first time in the last 5-6 years, people are like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. I'm scared of how I'm going to make it to next year. But I think now's the time to play offense. So what makes me afraid is how afraid people are. Like, I think people should be excited right now, not scared. Interest rates are 6.5%, 7%. I'm going to be blunt. That's nothing. That's normal. Now, people were used to 3-4% interest rates, but that's not normal. Like, I think this is more normal, all right? So like, people have amnesia from 10-15 years ago. They only remember 3-4 years ago, but like, I think 7% interest rates are okay. Like, give me money for 30 years at 7% all day.
Totally agree with you. People forget things. And as you said, analyzing real numbers, it's a perfect time to invest. In 5 years, don't say we didn't tell you. And now for new investors, you already share a lot of real information, but what would you say to a new investor? Is it now a good time to start investing in real estate?
So look, there's a lot of the bigger pockets world, the YouTube world, the link. There's so much data out there to shrink someone's learning curve. At least you get started. Like before, it was like, I literally bought the book, Mortgage for Dummies. And I had a yellow book, and I was like, what is a mortgage? And what is amortization and all these things. Today, there's so much content with podcasts, with videos that you can get started. Now, the hard part is to actually pull the trigger and to do it, right? And there's nothing better to learn than actually stepping into the fire. Actually something breaking and you having to do this. Actually realizing that when you buy something, it's not just the price point, it's what your all-in cost in. Like, people get into real estate like, oh, I bought that for $10. You're like, yeah, but you have to put $6 into it, and you bled for 2 years, and your all-in cost is $20. You didn't buy it for 10, you're all in for 20. That's your cost, right? But you don't think of that until you do it. Just doing it and getting into it. And more importantly, for someone who's starting, and it's hard for me because I go as hard as humanly possible all the time, is to start smaller than you could do. To say, look, I have this much, I'm going to spend a third of that and go learn. Or to partner with someone who's already done it so many times that you're able to co-invest with them and learn from their mistakes. And, and get them for an hour a month and be like, hey, why don't you do this? And walk me through this report. And what does that mean? And how do you do depreciation for your real estate? Oh, or how do you do insurance better? Or how do you get better financing? Or why do you use that loan? Like, getting to people who've done a lot and have a lot of experience, have already screwed it up. Like, every real estate person has screwed up one way or another. If they don't, then bullshit. And the other thing is, start smaller than you think.
Great. Now, how do you see the real estate market 6 months in the future? What would you say to the people out there?
No idea. I think people, like I said, should be more excited. I don't think they're going to get more excited unless interest rates come up. Everybody's attached to the same thing. I see lots of opportunities because lots of sellers need liquidity in residential or commercial. Like, lots of loans are coming due. Lots of people need liquidity, and they haven't been able to get liquid because there's a spread between what the seller wants because they remember what happened 2 years ago, and when the buyers are like, hey, I got to borrow for more. It's more expensive to borrow. Rents aren't aren't what they were. There's still a gap. I think there's definitely going to be opportunities, and there should be opportunities. I don't know how fast they get here, but we're seeing them in Sell2Rent from the single family, smaller investment world.
Okay. And as you said before, you are a tech company. What excites you? How do you see the future with all this tech, with all this AI and new tech showing up?
I think the most important thing in tech right now is to have an open mind and a growth mindset and be like, I know it's a race to zero. I know it's going to get cheaper. I know that I don't know what I don't know, right? But what I do know is that if you have the mindset of let's be open to learning, you're going to be able to grow. So many people are scared. And I'm seeing this inside our company. I'm seeing with my entrepreneur friends, like they're afraid to test. They're afraid to try. They're afraid to screw up. But it should be the complete opposite. It costs $30 a month to try the software. Go fucking break it. They go destroy it. And if it goes, and if it goes great, you learn. And if it goes bad, unsubscribe. Like who cares? So I think the big thing with tech right now is having that growth mindset of it's going to get cheaper. It's going to get faster. It's not even Moore's law. Like every 3 years, something. No. It's like an exponentially bigger law than that, which is it's going to get so much better. And I love what we've done in Sell2Rent, which is like we've embraced it. And we've said, we don't know. We're going to test. Everybody jump in. I know you're afraid. Let's everybody try different things and experience here. But like there's so much good that comes from this. Like so much good. I don't think people are losing their jobs. I think people are going to have superpowers. Yeah, I'm really liking where the tech's going. I'm really liking how we're connecting AI inside of us. We're doing voice AI, video AI, text AI. We're doing all sorts of AI. And I'm going to say this once, I'm going to say it 500 times. We're not going to be an AI company in the sense of we're not going to generate our own intelligence. We're going to use the best-in-class intelligence, tie it to us, and make our team amazing inside of the DNA. And that's not changing anytime soon.
Now, tell me how it's going with the adaptation. Where are you on this point? And what do you think people need to know? And why people could be scared?
So the adoption cycle, it's not easier to start. It's way harder because people are not confident. They're terrified and then they're going to screw it up. And it's not best practices to do so, right? What I think with us specifically, people don't know what a leaseback is and what we do. They have no idea. Investors don't know. Sellers are like, hey, I would love to stay in my house. Can I do this? And that's when they come to us like, hey, can I do this and buy it back in the future? We're like, absolutely not. This is, you're selling your house and you become the renter. We're not going to pre-generate or pre-do something like that because it's not legal. And we also have no idea what's going to happen in 5 years. But from the investor side, is like it's hard to do something new that you've never done before, and that there's not precedents. That there's a lot of history that you just can't watch a YouTube video like, oh, that's how you do it, right? I think the way that we're engineering this, I'm really excited to make it as easy as possible and to decrease the adoption for new investors to jump into this. And I'm not just talking about like the institutional investor. I think a single investor who is learning how to buy their first house as an investment property because they want to diversify and think long-term wealth and whatever. I think this could be a really easy solution because we're trying to make it, one, we're trying to think of them. Two, we're trying to make it easy for them. And three, we're supporting them across the entire life cycle of it. So yeah, I just think we got to do a better job getting out to the world. Look, for the last couple of years, we've been growing the seller side of this. We've gone really, really deep into the problem and all our energy has gone to the seller side. Now we're going into the investor side.
Great. Thanks for sharing. And now let's go back to you. With all this knowledge and experience, if you can give young Alex some advice, what would you say to you?
About just real estate or just overall?
Overall, man, because you have now a lot of experience. So what advice would you give to your 21-year-old?
If I went back to my 21-year-old self, I would try to shorten my learning curve as much as possible. So I will find mentors or people who have experience already. And that's why I say when someone's investing for the first time, like get with people who've done it already, right? And just try to develop a relationship with older people who have the battle scars and the war stories, right? I do that today with young people where I'm like, hey, here's where I screwed up. Here's what I learned. And here's everything that already costs a lot of money to get my ass kicked with, right? So I would do that. And then I would start reading books earlier. I'm an Audible princess at this point. I'm a queen. I listen to Audible all the time. I would have started that earlier. I didn't grow up reading. So I think I do like 40, 50 Audible books a year now. And I think you could learn so much from so many people on their life lessons so easily today. I would start reading listening way earlier.
And now that we are visiting the past, hit me with the backstory of Sell2Rent. Share with us how this journey started and how you got on this boat.
So I'll give you the backstory at a high level. So my partner, Danny, comes from the single family rental world. I come from commercial multifamily apartment. And when Danny was building his first portfolio, he bought, I think, 400 homes. Him and his partners bought 400 homes in South Florida. And in the process of that, he looked at 6,000 houses. And as he was doing this, he would walk into these houses and make sure the condition or whatever. And he would see like the little girl's pink room, and he would see like all these mothers and fathers that need the money. Their biggest house was their house. So they would try to sell, and then they would move 3 blocks away. And he was like, okay, there's something here. Like, why wouldn't they just stay? So he had this idea of doing a leaseback, and a leaseback is done in many industries in the world: airlines, refrigeration, commercial real estate, but not in single family world. So he had this idea to bring leaseback to one of the biggest industries in the world, which is single family rental. So then he tells me the story, and I call him an idiot because I was like, why would anybody in the world, in the United States, sell their house and not move out? That's not what we do. And he's like, look, do me a favor, test it. Check it out. I think there's something here. You don't see it. I did not see it. So I tested it, and too many people reacted really well to it with the specific angle of, I could cash out today. I can know how long I'm going to stay for, and I'm protected. And that's what we put under the thesis of Sell2Rent. And the leaseback has started growing since then, but like it's a new category. People realize what a reverse mortgage is, and there's only 50, and reverse mortgage has been around for so long, and only 50,000 are done a year. But people know what that is because it's been around for so long. Leasebacks have not. Leaseback, I believe, is a way bigger opportunity because there's no age restriction. It's not a loan. It's a lot cleaner of a break because you have a handoff from a buyer to a seller. But yeah, that was the origin story of how we started coming up with the Sell2Rent, idea.
Love it, man. And hey, that's a real life story a lot of people pass through all around the US. And hey, investors, knock, knock. This is a real opportunity. But hey, hit me with that. What do you think investors are not seeing here?
Here's what investors got to realize, which a lot of the sellers coming to us are in smaller towns, but they're way better financial transactions. So if people get over it has to be in my backyard so I can touch it. If people are starting, and a lot of younger investors are way more open to this because of the internet than the older guys that are like, I will only drive 10 miles. And I get it. It's geography. The US is huge, right? The investors that we've seen come to us and be like, I'll buy something in New Mexico. I'll buy something in Oklahoma. I'll buy something in Illinois because it's a long-term, it's an off-market deal. I'm getting it at a discount. I don't see that anywhere else. You're helping with the loan. People have opened up to switching their investment styles, and it's been really, really helpful for them. So I think as people open up to the opportunities and open up to remote management and things like that, this could really take off. But that's part of the growth platform we're doing with investors now, is explaining and educating and teaching them all the things that we do in-house. It's not just put a sign outside and say, please come in and you figure out your own loan and you figure out the rents are okay.
Bro, this is gold, and it's free here at Sell2Rent YouTube channel. So don't say we didn't give you these great hacks, people. Now let's get wild. Let's drop some funny but gold information. Imagine this. You work your ass to put together $200K. How would you invest this money?
If I put $200,000 and worked really hard to save that, and I was just getting into real estate, what would I do? I think I would chop that up into like 4 investments of $50,000 each. I will find 3 different investor or operators that already have a platform that I can co-invest in. I will take $50K and buy 1 property myself. I would hope that the first 3 are way more passive, and I learn, and I have I structure one-on-ones with some of those managers and learn with their monthly report, their quarterly report, and how they do it. And with the $50K investment, I buy 1 property or a starting smaller property, and I get my ass kicked left and right. And you see this as the best $50K master's course you could buy or mentorship you could buy, because it's going to be painful, but you're going to learn so much that the next one's going to be better, and then the next one's going to be better. So I would chop it up into diversify a little bit, right? It could be different asset classes. Like we're talking about just real estate. It could be like industrial, commercial, self-storage, office, maybe not so much office right now, or retail, and then multifamily. And then this one will be more of like something that $50K could be my own. So like a condo, a single family house. And I will look at them in different lenses. Of the first 3 will be more passive, more learning. The 4th one's going to be get in there, right? And I would make a heavy lift project. I wouldn't make it like a big fix and flip project where you have contractors, and I would do more of a hands-off, longer-term lease if possible, just because I probably have a full-time job. I'm not just doing the 4 things.
I'm going to get a little bit more wild. How are you feeling with this new YouTube world? How are you dealing with creating a podcast with other investors? Is it fun?
It is super weird. Not natural. It is, I'm a type A personality, but I'm not used to being in front of a camera at all. I find it super weird. So yeah, it's been taking some time to get used to it and to do it as to just help us scale. But yeah, it's not a natural superpower for me. It's not natural superpower is to talk to a lot of people. I'm very Cuban, loud, but when it comes to naturally being in front of a camera, it's not a strength. I love experience sharing and just giving away some of the things that have cost me lots of pain and I learn from. Naturally, I'm good. I love that. But just to get in front of a camera and do it, like I'm not a natural salesperson. I don't just, I'm going to upsell you because of this. No, that's not my superpower. My superpower is strategy and thinking big and seeing blind spots and getting people to buy in and thinking of how we're going to grow and how to, understand how people are doing and teamwork, but it's not YouTube sales.
I think that makes the channel unique, you are more real, and that's a great win. And you just mentioned your superpower is to watch blind spots. What would you say to investors? Like, hey, snap out of it. You're not seeing this opportunity and it's in front of you. As you said before, now it's the time to jump in the fire.
I think it's natural human psychology to follow the herd, follow the crowd. Everybody's doing this, do that. And what happens is usually most people are not at the front of the line, they're the back of the line, they're late. So they're not seeing the best transactions, they're not seeing the best deals. Like usually when a house is on Zillow at that point, it's a bad transaction because a lot of people, insiders, people who see the deal behind the scenes already passed on it, right? So in commercial real estate, there's something called LoopNet or Craigslist. By the time something hits those platforms, you're like, this deal sucks, or it should suck. Because they're trying to reach not the expert investors, they're trying to reach everybody else. All the experts already passed on it. Having less competition and seeing behind the scenes is crucial. It just takes a long time to develop those relationships, to get the first look, to see behind the scenes before everybody else. So I just think everybody's usually does the same thing because it's natural and it's safety and it's what, the YouTube video says. It's not the new technology, the new platform, the new investment, the new strategy. So I think definitely think it's just natural psychology of follow the crowd.
And now that we are talking about that, who would you say Sell2Rent is made for? Speaking from the investor world.
So we see this as a pyramid of investors. On the top of the pyramid, you have the professional investor, the fund that has raised Wall Street money or private equity money that is looking to buy 100,000 houses, right? The funny thing about 100,000 houses in the US is that is like 0.0001% of it. It's nothing. You need a lot of money for that, but it's nothing in the big market. But they have a lot of liquidity. They could buy really fast, but they all buy the exact same product. They buy the exact same 3, 2, and above in the same zip codes. They can't have a pool. They buy literally the exact same cookie cutter house, right? Which is not the majority of the houses. In the middle of it, you have what we call a middle market investor. But that is someone who started buying 1 or 2, started falling in love with it, quit their job, started buying multiple, and now has a small business around 100 houses. And they have an in-house accountant and they do their own property management and rehab, and they're growing their portfolio. And their problem is they don't have enough money and they're trying to grow and it's their first business and they're scaling, but now they're starting to figure it out. That's the middle of the pyramid. The bottom part of the pyramid is the biggest part of the market, which is the mom and pop investor. Positive about that is that's our core customer. That's the people that have been coming back to us because they don't mind trying something different. It's an off market. It's their first couple of transactions. We're helping with a lot of the process, right? And there's, I think, 16 million in the US that's bigger than most countries, like that already own multiple investment properties. And our job is to keep making it easier and easier and easier for them. But the hard part is a lot of these people only buy in their geography. Yeah. We're in Florida, someone's in Orlando, someone's in Miami. That's a 4-hour drive. A lot of people are just like, that's too far away. Well, people are starting to open up to third-party management and remote operations and things like that. And as people see that and see that we're bringing a lot of the equity to the table with prepayments, we're bringing lots of the loans in place, I think people will start opening up to be like, well, maybe I will buy something in Wisconsin, something different.
How we explore the business side, the experience side, but I want to get into your mind and your core. Share with me that one story where life hit you hard.
I got you. I got a good one. This is, people know about this, but this is something that I experienced right now. So when I went to college, I graduated high school early. I was 17 and I got to college in my first semester. I'm at the University of Florida and it's a beautiful campus and I get a job. I start playing sports. I join a fraternity. I take way too many classes. I start partying and it's heaven. It's awesome. Except the fact that I almost lost my scholarship the first semester because I was going so hard on everything, having so much fun that I got a handwritten note from the College of Business and said, if you don't improve your grades, we're going to remove your scholarship. It was the first time that I got kicked in the face so hard that everything stopped. I remember coming back to my mom's house, my freshman year of college for the winter break. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Like everything went from the peak straight down. And I was like, what happens if this gets released? right? What happens if I lose my scholarship? Like everything ends. So weirdly ended up moving into a fraternity house and I discovered the library. And for the first time ever, I discovered how to put my headphones on and to zone out and learn how to concentrate. And I think honestly, that was a pivotal moment in my life to learn how to get into a zone and to get to to dial in. And it was because I almost flunked out my first semester. I had I think like a 2.1 in the US out of 4. And I ended up graduating honors. Like I ended up completely switching it around and changing it. But like I got kicked in the face hard my first effort. It was awesome, but it was hard. And that was a huge life lesson. And even now, like I'm able to be anywhere in the world, put my headphones on and I listen to something called chill step, which is classical music with EDM. And it's fast enough that keeps you engaged, but doesn't have a lot of words, so you're not singing. And it's one of my super secrets. It was great. It was a great learning experience.
And for the great finale, if you could work in any other industry, which would it be?
Sports. I love the sports world. It was my degree. I try to go to as many sporting events as I can. It's my happy place. I've been to the World Cup. I've been to national championships. I've been to NBA finals. And that to me is like an experience like no other to be in those environments. A lot of times it's like a reality TV. You don't know who's going to win. But to me, sports are the industry that I would choose. There's a lot of demand. A lot of people want to work in sports, but the supply's not there. There's not a lot of teams. And if you want, let's say you want to work for a football team, there's only 30 of them or whatever. So you have to move towns. It's not like you get an office or work remotely. So I love the sports culture and all that, but it just sucks to actually work in sports.
Man, I love sports. And in which sport would you love to be working?
College football. College football by far to me is the religion. It's the funnest, the biggest, there's just doesn't stop. There's a lot of teams. It's spread around the entire United States. There's a lot of history. People care for it a lot. So to me is definitely college football is the mecca, the top.
Okay, man. Thanks for being human, for being real, for sharing your experience. It was a pleasure to have you here. And thanks people for watching.
If you liked the video, please remember to hit the subscribe button, share it, and let us know in the comments what you think about. See you next time.
Okay, let's go.